This is a TalkStation original podcast.
Hey, this is Zack. On this week's episode, we talk to veteran baseball umpire Jimmy Paylor to get an inside look at life behind the plate and when it goes viral. It all starts right now on the Paper Boys podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
I'm Zack Nally.
And we're joined by our producer, Ross Caraway, and our second guest ever, Jimmy Paylor.
Wow, pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you. Excited about this.
Thank you for joining us. I was thinking earlier, I might have to apologize right off the bat to Zack and to Ross and some other of our listeners. When I'm in Beaufort, Moorhead, I try to clean up the Down East brogue and act more citified, but with Jimmy on here, a Harkers Island native, I'm sure he's going to bring it out.
This is going to be great.
well, Zack's from Newport, so he can't act like he's citified.
He might have to
I'll try to keep up here.
We might have to change the name of the podcast to the Viral Boys. Although if you call yourself Viral Boys, people might not really be keen on hanging out with you. Sound like you've been doing stuff you shouldn't be doing.
Stay away from them.
Yes, exactly. No, yeah. Because first episode, we talked about the Big Rock Blue Marlin tournament, which went viral for obvious reasons. You can go back and listen to that podcast if you've been living in a cave. Second week, we had on Buddy Bingle, owner of the Moorhead City Marlins, a collegiate wood bat baseball team here in Moorhead City, and they had a promotional event where they went with an alter ego, the Moorhead City Motorboaters, which is a play on, the area we live in, but also, tongue-in-cheek. If you've ever seen the movie Wedding Crashers, or if you've just ever been a dude, you know what Motorboaters is all about. And so the third week in a row, we have someone who's going viral. Mr. Jimmy Paylor, a few weeks back, was all over Twitter and the internet.
JJ, I'm hope that's not the only reason I'm here, that I went viral. I hope there's other things we can talk about.
Well, let's lead off with that, being that got you famous for a little bit.
Well, again, I'm more than glad to talk about this. There's some things that I can't really talk about because of the NCAA, my assigner, the AAC assigner, just because of what was said and things that were said during the day, but to tell you more about what happened, and hopefully this will clear my name, which is why I'm really excited to talk about it. One, it was a long day, so it was a weekend series at Central Florida with Wichita State. Friday's game got rained out, so we had a doubleheader. Now this is the last week also of a 16 straight weekend season for the college baseball. So it was the last weekend of the season. We got rained out on Friday. We had a doubleheader scheduled for the next day, Saturday, at 11 o'clock, starting at 11 o'clock. So we play at 11 o'clock, and that game literally lasted 4 hours and 20 minutes. So we get in the locker room after that game, and I'm getting changed for the second game, and the baseball ops guy for Central Florida knocks on our door and said, "Hey, we got a lightning within 8 miles. We gotta have a little delay." So the college rule is if lightning's within 8 miles, you got to wait 30 minutes after the last strike. So, and that's pretty standard for high school ball and for a lot of local ball as well. So anyway, we waited 30 minutes. He come back in and said, "Hey, we got another strike and we got a storm coming." 5 hours later, we start the second game of the doubleheader. So now I've been to the ballpark since 11 o'clock. We're starting the second game 5 hours after the 4-hour game ended. And we played getting the third inning, and we have another 45-minute rain delay. Going into the top of the ninth inning, the score was tied 6-6. And Wichita State scored 6 runs, made it 12-6. So, this is at 1:45 in the morning now that we're still playing baseball. Wow. And the player for Central Florida looks on the second night, looks at a third strike, which I punched him out, as you probably saw in the moment. And he had some words, and me keeping him in the game. I didn't toss him. I could have ejected him, but obviously didn't eject him. And we exchanged our. Granted, it was a mistake on my part. Now I've done some things in my career for umpiring that I have regretted. I did regret that. It's to a point that when it went viral and you saw it on Fox News, for the next couple of days, I'm sitting here reading the comments, and I'm thinking, gosh, I got to push away from that. I don't want to read anymore because some of the comments are, "This guy's brutal. He should never umpire again." And the next comment was, "Oh, that kid had it coming to him." So it was all over the board on what the comments were.
It's funny you mentioned that. The main tweet I think that sent it viral, and I saw it last night. It got 124,000 views.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was reading the responses, and it was about 50-50.
It was about 50-50. Yeah, and that's my wife kept telling me. She said, "Would you read this review? This guy loves you." And then I would read it, and the one under it was, this guy was awful. This is a young kid. He should have never said that to him. And granted, I shouldn't. I've made several mistakes in my career, but that was one that I regret, I guess.
And I'm looking at them right now, and one of the things that's hard is we're watching from TV, and we don't see what's happening. The viral moment is that you can see you saying it in the moment, but there's lots of things that are said under the breath
on a football field
or off
or
the
a baseball
camera.
field.
Sure. One person here says you'd be stunned to know what some of the players say in the dugout or to umpires. Believe me, they are not saints. So it's a tough position.
That's so true, Zach. I mean, that is exactly. Trust me, that kid, and I'll tell you more about what happened the next day.
Well, let's let people know the thing that made it go viral was people can read you say F you.
Yeah, exactly. So and so that is new school versus old school. Back in when I was doing pro ball, when you didn't have cameras zoomed right in on your lips, none of that would have ever happened. None of that would have never went viral. But in today's world with social media, as you guys well know, as we're doing a podcast here in 2023, it went crazy. It really blew up. My assigner called me the next morning and said, "Did you see this?" And I was like, "No, I had no idea what you're talking about."
It was just a fleeting moment for you out there.
I'm laying in bed, and I'm laying in bed in Orlando, Florida, and he calls me like at 7:45 in the morning. He said, "Did you see this?" Like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." So then I saw it, and I called him back. I was like, "Uh-oh." Now what? Anyway, long story short.
What was your worry level at that point, you think?
I was worried.
Yeah.
And it's kind of obviously it's died down since then. Right. But the NCAA really frowns on that type of behavior from an umpire or a player even, And again, I had options. I could have tossed him. And it would have been held up, no questions. But again, with the circumstances, me being there from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, I didn't want to step another 2 hours and write an ejection report and had to make a phone call to the NCAA explaining why I ejected this kid and all that.
A lot goes into an ejection.
Yeah, a lot goes into an ejection and to an ejection report. And you try to keep the players in. I mean, he gets suspended. If I had tossed him, he gets suspended, for one game. Then the next day, senior day, he don't get to play in senior day. Not that was running through my mind at the time, but hindsight, it worked out well. The coach for Central Florida, Lovejoy, he actually came to me the next day at plate meeting and thanked me. He actually thanked me for keeping the kid in the game. It was funny. The funniest part of it, now I'm working with it's a 4-man crew, and I'm working with a guy who actually taught me in umpire school in 1986 named Jeff Hendricks. Great guy, great umpire. Been to College World Series probably, I think, 7, 8, maybe 9 times. Just a classy, great umpire. So he's working second base the next day. I'm on third base, and this kid happens to play third base. So we go out to first innings. We don't speak. I don't look at him. He don't look at me. I'm still steaming, wondering what's happening with my college career here, thinking all these thoughts. Finally, the crew chief, Jeff, he looks over at me. He says, "Hey, you guys kissed and made up yet?" And that kind of broke the ice. And I said, "I'm good." And then the other guy said, "I'm good." And then we talked about it a little. And actually the kid, and I call him a kid, he's 22 years old, so he's not a kid, And it's not like the first time he's ever heard that, I'm sure. Right. Or obviously not. He said it to me. But anyway, long story short, it all worked good. He shook my hand. And look, again, the Lovejoy, the head coach, he came out and thanked me the next day for keeping him in the game and allowing him to be able to play for senior day.
Right. So, it gets caught on broadcasting, so that's what makes the trouble for it. But otherwise, outside of that, it's just kept to a quick exchange, a heated exchange between two people, and then it's gone.
And nothing was, I'm telling you, we walked in the locker room, and we even talked about it in the locker room, and nothing was said. Didn't even think about it. Went out that night, had dinner, even after at 1 o'clock, found a little place to stop, have a cocktail and dinner, and nothing was said until 7:45 next morning when I'm get the phone call.
And if he's 30 years old, this probably isn't much of a story anyway.
Yeah, and that the
college thing is.
Yeah, that's kind of anybody that's been around college baseball or baseball in general. The language is not good. It's just that simple. The language is not good. It is what it is. But again, I have made some mistakes in my umpiring career, and this was a mistake. And I did apologize to the kid and apologize to the coach and even the AD later on the next day for the behavior. They were very classy about it and handled it well.
What was your phone like after that? Was it blowing up?
So I get home, I fly home. We worked that game Saturday, of course. Then we had another game Sunday to finish the season. Fly home Monday morning, and I'm literally sitting in my chair on Monday morning or Monday afternoon. My phone rings. It's another umpire. He said, "Hey, dude, have you seen Fox News?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "This thing's all over Fox News." I said, "No, it's on Twitter." He said, "No, it's on Fox News.
It's elevated."
He said, "It is on Fox News." I said, "Get out of town." So I Google it. He sends it to me. I think he sent it to me. I pulled it up. And I looked, and by the time I looked, there was like 925 comments. I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And like I was telling you, I would read some of the comments, and then like I was like, oh man, I can't read these comments anymore. You know, one comment is this umpire, this kid deserved it. Next comment is, man, this guy wants to take my life. You know, getting threatened over this. So it's just crazy.
Well, do you still think it was a good strike?
For being at the ballpark from 11 o'clock till 1:45, it was a great. No, it wasn't a good start. It was a great strike.
That's right. That's right.
Does the zone expand a little bit?
Well, you know, when it's 6-6 and you just played a
6-run rally there.
It was 6-6 going into the top of the ninth, and they score 6 runs, and you're trying to get out of there. It was a great strike, no doubt about it. I would call it again right now.
I've said that many times covering high school baseball is 8th inning, and it's like a 10-run rule different almost, or 8-run rule, and you're like, he calls a strike, and you're like, he just wants to go home.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah, let's not change pitchers. Let's not do any of this stuff. Let's just get going.
No. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back talk more with Jimmy.
Hi, folks. Bob Lowry here, and this episode of the Paper Boys podcast is brought to you by the Carteret County Speedway. Kids Camp 2023 is now going on. With more room to bring your kids out, we have some opening spots. It'll go from now until August. The Kids Camp is an incredible experience for your child to come out and get the basic knowledge of racing, go around the track, learn sportsmanship, learn a lot of different things when it comes to racing, about the flags, about the rules. They come out, they have fun. We've got 2 classes each day, 9 to 12, and then 2 to 5, so for the little older groups. So please come out, go to CarteretSpeedway.com, find out more about us, and we'll see you at the Carteret County Speedway.
Welcome back to the Paper Boys podcast. We're talking to Jimmy Paylor, longtime college baseball umpire, high school umpire, also did some pros. What's your background in umpiring?
So in 1986, I took the long trip from Harkers Island, North Carolina, down to Cocoa Beach to Joe Brinkman's umpire school, and was selected in the top 10 of like 400 students to go on to pro ball, and they send you from that school to a school run by pro baseball, and that's where you are selected to work in pro baseball. So I started out in the low minor leagues. In 86 was my first year, worked my way through the minor leagues, from the European League to the Florida State League, the Eastern League to American Association and the International League, and then got a cup of coffee up in the big leagues, and also worked big league spring training for 3 years. So you work big league spring. I worked in winter ball, instructional league. So yeah, I had a great career in pro ball. It was fun. Something that they can never take away from you. You say you didn't make it to the big leagues. Yeah, I did. I had a cup of coffee there, but something they can't take from me. A lot of people can't say they umpired in the big league, so I can proudly.
Had you been doing high school ball before all that?
No. I was fresh out of
you jumped right into the
fresh out of high school.
Wow.
I was supposedly they say I was the youngest guy ever to umpire professional.
That's quite
baseball.
A jump. I mean,
yeah, I was 18 years old when I umpired my first major league or my first professional baseball game.
Was it difficult being somebody younger than the players?
Learning curve, yeah.
Sure.
I'm
commanding respect, that sort of thing.
Sure, and you at that. And they always told you it's easier to tone you down than it is to tone you up. So you gotta be. Yeah, at that point, I had to be a little bit more aggressive in things and in handling situations. It's all about handling situations. Believe it or not, umpiring, it comes down to handling situations. Most guys you see in the college game and in professional baseball, they can all umpire. They can all call balls and strikes, saves and nights. They can. It's just that simple. It's just a matter of how you handle each situation. Some people say you got to mess up to move up. So you mess up a situation, you get looked at, then you get moved up because they are looking at you and they say, oh, this guy can really work. And they,
like conflict resolution, like
exactly. So there you go. So that you got to mess up to move up. Just like I said, that's a motto in umpiring
because it's going to happen.
Just you got to
handle it.
When and how you handle it. Exactly.
1995, like you said, you got what, 6 games in the American League.
Yeah, got called up and you got up there. Like I said, but prior to that, I had some games and then I worked big league spring training prior to that. So it was fun. Those players they're just so good. People don't realize how good the Major League Baseball player is. You see, talking locally about Lonnie Chisenhall, I saw him when he was in high school, and I knew right then with his work ethic and how he looked that this kid had chance. And sure enough, he did have a chance. But as good as he was, he got there and he, had a very successful career. But that's how good every one of those guys' work ethic was. It's just we have one Lonnie Chisenhall where there's just think how many people all over the United States are just like him.
Where were you at when you got the call up?
My first city I was in Omaha when I got called up for the first time. And like I said, this guy got hurt and I went up for 2 days and come back down. So that was my first call up for
what level were you at then? Is that
AAA? That's AAA.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was in.
How long had it taken you to work yourself up to AAA?
I had 11 years in minor league baseball. I worked my last 4 years in AAA. So actually 3.5 years. I got called up in the middle of the season. Got called up to what then was the American Association. They had 3 leagues. They had the American Association, Pacific Coast League, and the International League. I got called up to the American Association. The following year, the International League and the American Association combined and made one league. So now there's International League and the Pacific Coast League. So that I went to the International League, but that's where I got called up from.
Is that a full-time gig, or do you have to work?
No. That's vacation status. It's vacation status. So you go up and down. So just to explain a little bit about how it works. So you get to AAA, and then there's vacation umpires. So the big league umpires, if they get 2 weeks vacation a year, so they go on vacation, and then J.J. Smith might be wherever, and he's being looked at by Major League Baseball. Let's call J.J. up for work this series, and then they'll send you back down to AAA after that. So there's probably 20 guys in AAA that's on vacation, that's got what they call vacation status. So they'll go up and down from the big leagues to back to AAA.
And obviously your goal all those years, you're 11 years in, is I just want to get to the show.
Sure, absolutely. So every minor league umpire, that's their goal. Every minor league umpire, that's their goal, to get to. For one, I'll give you a little explanation about the money situation. So in the low minor leagues, I was making $1,100 a month. $1,100 a month is what you was making in A ball and double. Now, of course, now they have a union, and the money's a lot better. Now they get their hotels paid for, they get their travel, all their travels paid for, like I said, and their money is so much better than it was then. But in the low minor leagues, I was making $1,100 a month. I went to Double A, and I thought I had made it big. I was making $1,400 a month. Then, like I said, in AAA, we bumped us up to like $2,400 a month, and they pay for our travel, pay for our hotel, and we got a small per diem per month. But yeah, so you're not in the minor leagues to make money. Just like the players are not in the minor. They got one goal. They want to get to the big leagues. So the umpires are just like players. They want to get to the big leagues. That's their goal.
Were you working during the off seasons?
So yeah, I would come home and work at Safefort's Building Supply or work wherever, find a little odd end job. That's when I started officiating high school basketball, which, so you come home and substitute teach, officiate high school basketball, worked at Safefort's Building Supply or worked at a car lot in Havelock, Preston Justice Motors in Havelock. Just find little odds and end jobs to hold you over till your next baseball season started.
I'm curious, through all those experiences you had umpiring at different levels, did you ever have any other kind of interactions with players or coaches that were?
Every year. I mean, like I said, so most minor league umpires are going to have between 8 and 10 ejections every year. That's just the number that you'll have. And they range from different things, from players to, balls and strikes, Sace nights. Back then, of course, we didn't have replay either, so it's totally different. Replay has totally changed the game of baseball. Totally changed that and the pitch clock, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But how that has actually changed the game. But back then, we didn't have that. I mean, it was the manager coming out from the top step of the dugout and cussing you right now. I mean, he's screaming across the field. Where now they stand on top step and motion to their ears that we won't check replay. So yeah, I mean, we had a situation. Chris Chambliss, I know you know the name, used to be with the Yankees, first baseman of the Yankees back in the day. He actually became a minor league manager, and for whatever reason, me and him just did not see eye to eye. I don't know what it was, but it was like oil and water. We just did. I don't care. He was with the Yankees organization for a while, then he went to the Braves organization, and we just did not see eye to eye. Don't care who he was with or what I did. It was known fact. It was going to be entertainment that night. It got to a point, one game I was working second base. Matter of fact, it was in Richmond, Virginia, when I was in AAA. He knew whatever call I had, he was going to come out on me. Sure enough, I had a still play at second base. I run out to the outfield at end to inning, third out of an inning. He come out there, he runs out there, and when he gets there, he's just panting. Can't hardly breathe. He's running out. And he turned and he says, I'm so damn tired of arguing with you, I'm not even going to argue. He turns around and walks back. Takes him like 10 minutes to get back to the dugout. He's so out of breath. So, I mean, it's just, you have that. You have that situation. Moises Alou, one of the Alou brothers, he was with the Expos organization. Great guy. Spoke broken English. Just a good guy. Me and him got along great. But we had a situation one night in West Palm Beach, Florida. I had to plate, calling balls and strikes. He hollers at about the second inning, Paylor, you a good ball umpire or bad ball umpire? Tonight, you a bad ball umpire.
Right.
And like I said, he just didn't speak good English.
As bad as it got from him.
Yeah, but that was it. Just a good guy.
Yeah.
And, some of these guys, you just have to, you respect them, for one, for the fact of where they're being and what they're doing. But you got to try to gain their respect as well. And I think I did a pretty good job during my career of gaining their respect as well.
Because a lot of these aren't one-off interactions. You're seeing these people repeated times over
my
the
gosh.
years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. And it gets to a point sometimes, like with the Chambliss situation, it's not that I dreaded having whoever he was with, but I just knew in the back of my mind,
Yeah.
I had to be on my A game that night because whatever I had, something was going to happen. It's just like you said. It's just I had a player the same way, kid with the Yankees, come up with his name was Dave Sylvester. Finally got in the big leagues. He was an All-American college player. Finally got in the big league, or finally, like I said, I had him all through my career. I just knew if I had the plate that night and he was playing, he was going to question balls and strikes. It's just, no matter what happened, he was going to question. It could be right down the middle, first strike of an at bat, and he had something to say. It's just you got to be mentally tough enough to be able to prepare yourself. You know something's going to happen.
Who are the tougher customers, the managers or the players?
When I was in the game, when I was in pro ball, the managers were the tougher of the two. Again, a totally different situation of how they handle with replay and all. Now, I would say it's more the players on balls and strikes. That's where you see your arguments now is on balls and strikes with the players. You don't ever see an argument hardly now with a play at first base or a steal play, because it always goes to replay, and you're not allowed to question that replay. Once it goes to replay and they replay it, that manager is not allowed to come out and question. If you do, it's an automatic ejection. If he comes out the dugout to ask you about that replay, it's automatic.
Okay,
They're not
so
allowed
there's been
to.
a lot of measures taken to keep them separate. Okay.
Yeah, you can't do it. So now your argument now is balls and strikes. That's where your argument is with the players. Or if you're the Yankees manager, it's Aaron Boone, where he don't, so that's where your ejections come from now, is arguing balls and strikes.
And that's always going to be there. I mean, it's
always going to be there.
Yeah.
Always going to be there. That's correct.
So you're doing a lot more with players than umpires these days in pro. College
yes.
too, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And college is going to replay now, which is great. It's been good. It's been good. It's been really good for college baseball and pro baseball as well.
We'll take a quick break and come back and talk more with Jimmy.
In 1959, you could buy a new house on the coast for about $12,000, a new car for $2,000, and fill it up with gas for only 25 cents a gallon. Everyone was cruising the beach, listening to the Platters, the Coasters, and a young guy named Elvis. And when it was time to eat, they all ended up at L's Drive-In in Morehead City. For over 60 years, L's has been serving up our world-famous super burgers, shrimp burgers, oyster burgers, and our mouth-watering fried chicken and barbecue. This coastal tradition of great food and friendly and fun customer service means L's is proud to be serving our third generation of regulars. And we're not done yet. Drive in and pick your spot under the old oak trees, next to the hospital in Morehead City. Then prepare your taste buds for a coastal tradition like no other, providing the best food, service, and atmosphere in Morehead City since 1959. L's Drive-In, next to the hospital in Morehead City.
Welcome back to the Paper Boys podcast. We're talking with college baseball umpire Jimmy Paylor. You graduated from East Carteret High School in 1985.
That's correct. Yep.
Played in a state championship.
We did in '84. Played in the state championship, and then we played against Piedmont, 3-game series. They beat us. It wasn't a 3-game series, by the way. It was a 2-game series. But funny.
And even those didn't go well, did they?
No, they did not. It's funny you mention that, and something we haven't talked about. But so this kid named Andy Tomberlin pitched for Piedmont. He got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates that same year. After he was a year older than me, so he was a senior and I was a junior. When I played in the state championship, I was a junior. So long story short, the next year when I got in the game in '86. Pittsburgh Pirates had a team in New York Penn League. This kid, Andy Tomberlin, he came to hit, but then he wasn't a pitcher. He was a left fielder. So he come to bat one game, and they announced him where he was from, North Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina. I was like, daggone, I know Piedmont. How do I know Piedmont? So Chuck Lewis came up to watch me umpire, and Chuck and Scott Lewis came up to watch me umpire, and Chuck said, that Tomberlin kid, he played at Piedmont against you in the state championship. I was like, no way. So like a couple games later, I had him again. I said, you played at Piedmont High School. You played against East Carteret. He said, yeah, we whipped their ass or something. I was like, hey, wait a minute, easy now, easy. Yeah. I said, easy, be good there. So long story short, yeah, so me and Tomberlin
Talk about a small world, huh?
Small world. We follow each other then. Like I said, he goes to AA. I get promoted to AA. He goes to AAA. He's in. So my first game in AAA, I go to Buffalo, New York. Buffalo Bison's in Pilot Field. Brand new field at Pilot Field in Buffalo. Who's playing left field? Andy Tomberlin. Comes to the plate, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Comes to the plate, and everybody knows this. I just got called up from AA. In the middle of the year. They hadn't seen me all year, and so he comes and hits me on my shin guards. I'm working the plate. He hits me on the shin guards. Says congratulations. But like I said, we kind of follow each other. And he actually got a cup of coffee. Played in the big leagues for a while. Not as a pitcher, but as a left fielder, outfielder. Wow. So yeah, so just a small world. You never know who you're going to run into in the game. It's a pretty good life to live. And like I said, just you meet a lot of people and have a lot of friends.
You were making fun earlier of your performance in the state championship, but you all really even shouldn't have got there, right? You were like the Cinderella team that year.
So it was amazing.
You had no pitching,
we
right?
had zero pitching. We had this kid. We had this guy named John David Jackson from Atlantic.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, we were loaded as far as defensively and offensively, but had zero pitching. John David Jackson, wherever he's at today, I think he's running for sheriff.
I was going to say, hopefully some of those guys aren't listening to this.
He's running for sheriff somewhere in Duplin County. Bless it. I bet his shoulder hurts and elbow hurts today. We threw him every game.
He was all you had.
That was it. He had a little knuckle. He threw about 75 miles. I had a little knuckle curveball that nobody could hit. But I mean, like I said, it's just. I mean, we just rode him like a broke mule. It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. But look, hey, we made it there, and 1 through 9 in the lineup, we were as good as anybody in the state. But pitching, oh no, we didn't have any pitching.
It's a minor miracle you got there.
It's a minor miracle. Yeah.
Where did you play?
I played left field at my junior year. Played outfield. So we played against Bunn. The Bunn, not Dunn, but Bunn, and they had this guy that was pitcher, and he hadn't lost the game all year. But we realized he loved to work real fast. I mean, he would get the ball and throw it really. I mean, just work real fast. So Coach Lewis and Coach Lilly's idea of that said we're going to slow him down. So we would step out like today's world with the pitch clock, it wasn't working. So we stepped out like every pitch. We would step out. He got so frustrated. We ended up beating him like 3-1. So like I said, it's just things like that you'll never forget. And
I was going to say, how often do you think back on those days?
Oh, it's fun. Just like I said, sit there and reminisce about it. And like I said, I made a catch in left field that game that. If I see Buddy Ebram or Kerry Lewis, we called him Bird. If I hadn't seen them in 10 years, they'll come up to me and say, "Hey, do you remember that catch you made in left field?" It's like I dove and accidentally ball landed my glove. But yeah, it's just good times.
And the next year, you're umpiring.
2 years later. So next year was my senior year. Yeah. So next year was my senior year, and we made the playoffs that year too. By the way, had a little bit more pitching, but East Carter made a good little playoff run there as well. Had a lot younger team, but we made a good little run then in the playoffs and. Obviously didn't make the state championship, but yeah. So then the following year after that.
When did you know that's the path you were going to take?
Obviously, I wasn't good enough to play Division I college baseball or take that right. And of course, back then, playing college baseball was not as big as it is today. Today, a lot more kids have the opportunity to play college baseball. But I knew I wasn't going to play college baseball, and so Donald Leatherman, who was a teacher at East Carter at that time, history teacher, football coach. He came to me one day. I had like 5 PEs my senior year, so I was a gym rat. So I was sitting in the gym. He come up to me, said, "Jimmy," said, "tonight one of the umpires can't be there for a slow pitch softball game in Swenson Park. Can you do it?" I was like, "Man, umpire? No, I don't want to umpire." He said, "Yeah, come on, do it." Talked me into doing it. I made $8 that game. Worked 2 games, got $16. I mean, I had it going on. So this in '85. So I went and umpired a game. I worked the bases both games. Didn't work the plate. So loved it. Fell in love with it. So the next day I come in. I said, "Coach Lemon, I love it. That was fun. A lot of fun." So then him and Chuck and Cecil were all talking outside the gym, and Donald was a jokester. He said, "That guy there's going to be a major league umpire one day." And they're like, "Yeah." So sure enough, Donald, like it was in Sport News. Remember the magazine Sport News?
Oh yeah.
They had an article on umpires, and on the bottom of it, it was Here's how to register to go to Joe Brinkman's umpire school. I was, going to Carteret. I was all lined up to go to Carteret at the time, Carteret Technical College or Carteret, whatever it was, CTC or whatever. I was going to go there for a couple of years and do whatever. I come in that night and said, Mom, I'm going to umpire school. What do you mean you're going to umpire? You ain't going to umpire school. Yeah, I'm going to umpire school in Florida.
Talk about out of left field there.
Totally out of left field. Mom, I'm going to umpire school. Joe Brinkman's umpire school. Showed her the thing. You're not going there. Yeah, I am. It was like $1,800 to go. Like, Mom, I'm going there. It's 5-week school. Then after that, you go to another 4-week school. No, you're not doing that. Begged her. Finally talked her into it, and here I am.
It's a chance to stay around the game and be around. I mean, I'm assuming you played for a long time.
Yeah. So, I started baseball like every other Dynasty kid that when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, 8 years old, played. Of course, now back then when I was coming up, we didn't have T-ball and all the other coach pitch and all that. It was straight Little League.
But a lot of times you graduate and you're done. You're done with the game.
You're done with the game. Absolutely, yeah. So, and I tell kids that all the time. I had this same conversation with my son when he was talking about high school sports. People that contemplate not playing high school sports or last year for whatever reason because they got so much going on. It's like, man, you need to think about this. You need to do it. This is it.
This is it.
After June 3rd, your senior, June 9th, your senior year, you're done. No more organized sports for you as far as at that level or that competition. You might go play in the men's softball league, but that's not the same. So, yeah, I have that conversation with kids all the time. Don't, like Jim Valvano said, don't give up. Keep going. Play as long as you can. And so like Zach, like you said, I was just so blessed to be able to stay around the game for such a long time, and here I am, 55 years old, and still around the game. The funny thing is, I keep getting older, but these athletes stay the same age. They're still 18 to 25 years old, and I'm getting older and older as we go. So I'm on the downhill side of my career, but it's been a great ride.
You talk about that as they stay the same age as you get older. Have you noticed a change in how they play or how they approach the game, or how you see the game?
So yeah, absolutely. You would think baseball is such a traditional sport, but the game has really changed a lot with the things that they have implemented. I just read yesterday about the college athlete now, the college baseball player. The average height and weight of college baseball is 6'1", 210 pounds. And you think about it, and when I was in high school, if you were 6'1" and 210,
you were the star.
You were a middle linebacker for Nebraska. You weren't a baseball player.
Right.
But that's what the college baseball player now is 6'1", 210.
12 months a year.
12 months a year, and that's the thing. So and you think about baseball and basketball, maybe not as much football, but baseball and basketball now with AAU ball and weekend ball, it's a year-round sport. You don't rest in baseball. Football, even I got a good friend of mine, Coach Richard Bailey, coaches at Scotland. In a group text with him, they're having mini camps. Football starts in September or it probably start in August for the hardcore practices. But sports nowadays for the high school kid, it's a year-round event. It's just not, hey, let's pick our glove up 2 weeks before practice and start throwing a little bit of baseball. So it has, baseball and sports in general has changed a lot since we were in school.
Well, you show up at the umpire school, you have no idea whether you're going to have an aptitude for this or not, huh?
Dude, I am 18 years old, 130, 145 pounds maybe. I am a homesick. Gosh, they had a payphone. We didn't have cell phones in 86. I wore out some quarters. I'm calling. We get a break, I call home. We get a break, I call my girlfriend. We get a break, I'm calling Granddaddy. Granddaddy says, hey, just call me collect. My grandfather took so many collect calls while I was in minor league baseball. It would scare you to know how much his phone bill was. But like I said, yeah, the things have changed and times have changed so much about as far as that. But back to umpire school, I caught a ride from Harker's Island to Cocoa, Florida, with a lady by the name of Mary Francis. She was a lady from Harker's Island, my aunt's husband's mother. So my uncle's mother, she had a home in Daytona. I got in a whatever year Pinto with wood paneling on the side, and we drove to Florida. We stayed at her house in Daytona. She pulls up to Cocoa Beach, the Cocoa Expo, the next day, which is Sunday, and I check in, and then that's it. The rest is history.
On your own.
On my own. I wanted to quit so many times. I was thinking I had no chance to make it, even to the point where I'm sitting in the closing ceremonies. I have my bags packed, ready to go home the next day or that day, and when they called my name that you're going on to the next school, I'm thinking, did they really just say my name? Come on. And,
what kept you pushing? It's not a dream you had for a long time. What kept you pushing?
Back in the day, just umpiring is all about instincts. And I give credit to Chuck Lewis and Cecil Lilly so much for teaching me the right way to play the game and the right way to do things about baseball. And they did. At the high school level, I can't imagine leaving a high school and knowing as much about the game as I did on any other, like I said, any other school. They just did such a good job of teaching you the right way to play. And I think that really helped me in umpire school. I really do.
We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk more with Jimmy.
Excuse me, could you spare one of those delicious L's fries?
You're a seagull.
Yeah, I know.
You're a talking seagull.
Well, I figured I better speak up because all the food here at L's Drive-In is so great that most folks find it hard to part with. Have you tasted their shrimp burger or their oyster burger? Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I'm having an L Super Burger with all the fixings, some fries, and a cherry Pepsi. All their food here is fantastical.
I know, that's why I keep coming back to L's Drive-In. But it seems no one wants to share even a little bite with a poor, hungry seagull.
I guess I could spare a fry or two.
Thanks. Hey guys, this lovely young lady is giving us some of her delicious L's Drive-In food.
Hey, wait a sec.
These are my friends, Katie Seagal.
Watch the hood there.
This is Steven Seagal and George Seagal.
Okay, here's another fry.
Oh, by the way, my name is Jonathan Livingston.
Really?
L's Drive-In, nestled in the old oak trees next to the hospital on Arundel Street in Morehead City. Remember, feed the seagulls at your own risk.
All right, welcome back to the Paper Boys podcast. We're talking to college baseball umpire Jimmy Paylor. He was telling us before the break about how you went down to Florida scared out of your wits. At what point, and you other than softball, slow pitch, that's all the experience you had at that point.
So I went to umpire school. Most of these guys, have had some high school experience or whatever other type of experience. They go down with their gray pants, or at the time their powder blue Elbeco button-up shirt and chest protectors and gear and plate shoes and all this. I go down with some shorts and T-shirts. I have nothing. I mean, I have no gray pants. I don't go down with a chest protector, a mask. I have them on my East Carteret baseball hat. And in umpire school, you play. They fill the teams with students. So you're doing situations with students, and so you got an instructor up there fungoing, and you got live plays or semi-live plays with students running and students umpiring. So I played shortstop for 5 weeks. I mean, and I to this day, I think that's why I made it through, because I could play shortstop. I could make a good throw to first base. So they wore me out fungoing to me. I have a fielder ground ball and throw it to first base. And, like I said, I had pretty good baseball instinct. So that's the reason, again, I feel like I made it, because they liked the fact that I could play and knew a little bit about the game. So when I realized that, hey, I got a chance, I can honestly sit here and say that even on the day of the closing ceremonies, when I'm leaving Cocoa, I had no idea that I was going to be selected to go into the next school. But I think what it was is the fact that I did not have any experience. I had no bad habits. I didn't do anything
No baggage.
wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I did exactly what they told me. They told me they wanted me to go stand on an X and make this call at first base. I'd have been a great Marine, because I went and stood on that X. I went and stood on that X, and I made that call exactly like they told me to do it. I didn't have any bad habits to break. So, I contribute that to why I did so well in umpire school.
They said jump. You said how high?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I tried. I tried. I tried to do exactly what they say, and I said, and I think that's what got me where
and even up to the very end, you had no idea you were doing well.
I'm telling you, I had my bags packed, ready to go to. Matter of fact, my parents drove down. My parents were in Cocoa, ready to pick me up, and I come out of the ceremony and said, "Hey, I got to go to Bradenton." It's like, why? They didn't even know about a second school. They didn't even know what happened after the first school. I thought I was done. So I said, "Hey, I got to go to Bradenton for another 3 weeks for the Major League Baseball portion of this." It's like, why? And I had to explain to them again that, I'm going back to umpire school for the second umpire school. So yeah, they drove back to Harkers Island, and I went on, got in a car with 10, I think it was 12 of us that actually got selected to go. 12 of us went over to Bradenton for the next 3 weeks.
How many students were in that first school?
So it was 400
Wow.
total. Those 400 total. Now those two umpire schools, Harry Wendelstadt Umpire School, and Joe Brinkman's umpire school at the time. So those 450 total that went
that year.
Split between the two.
Split between two.
Okay.
There was 10 that got selected from Joe Brinkman's. No, actually, those 12 got selected from Joe Brinkman's, and I think 10 got selected from Harry's to go to that next school. So, yeah, I was
part of a group of 22. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and then after you get to that second school, there was only 8 of us that got selected to go immediately into pro baseball with spring training. And I was one of the 8 that got selected to go into pro baseball.
What was that like when you go to that second school? Did you suddenly get this confidence of like, maybe I can do this?
Yeah. So, yeah, every day, again, I was a good student. I did what they told me to do. I had no bad habits. The big thing they teach is timing. Timing. You got to see the play, let it develop in your head. My timing was excellent from day one. So that's the reason. Like I said, they always compliment your timing is just really good. So I think again is because I didn't know any better. I contributed. I had one slow pitch softball game. Me and Don Ehlers, a guy that nobody knows. Don Ehlers umpired at Swenson Park, and that was my experience in umpiring a game with baseball or softball.
Wow, go back to Donald Leatherman, telling you to do that. Talk about the influence of a teacher on people's lives.
Yeah, here he was a history teacher, and I could sit here and tell stories about Donald Leatherman for the next hour. I had him for fourth period U.S. history, and I worked on the softball field more than I worked on U.S. history. But because he was a softball coach at the time. But yeah, I was so blessed at East Carteret High School with my teachers. Donald and Coach Lilly and Coach Lewis. I still talk to those guys today. I mean, here it is almost 40 years later. I could pick up the phone right now and call any of the 3, and they would be at my side or be at my beck and call. Just like I said, but it wasn't just me. I mean, that's just the way it was back in the day. They were good. They were if they liked you, and they would do anything in the world for you.
And so that begins the grind, and it's a grind going through the minor leagues, right?
So JJ, and that is such a good point. There was nothing fun about being in the minor leagues except the fact that you were in the minor leagues trying to work. I mean, I lived out of a suitcase for 11 straight years. I lived out of a suitcase. I was in a car for the lower minor leagues. Every third to fifth night, I was driving from Podunk to Podunk to work a game the next night at 7 o'clock. We finish at 10 o'clock. We take a quick shower. We jump in the car, drive to the next city, work another 3 to 5 game series. Once you got to AAA, it's better. The locker rooms are better. The ballpark's facilities are a lot better. You got a clubby. They take care of you. They feed you after the game. They do your laundry for you. Things that you fly instead of drive. So that portion of it got better. But in the low minor leagues, you talking about a grind? It is a grind and again, did I mention the fact we weren't making any money? I mean, we're making $1,100, $1,200, $1,500 a month, and you got to live off that. So yeah, it was a grind. It was really a grind.
Was there times where you thought, I just can't do this anymore?
So yeah, every season, August. It's like, man, August rolls around. It's hot. You're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it's 105 degrees, and you're praying for a rain out. Yeah, it's a grind, and like I said, you get to August and you work. The minor leagues, they end the first couple weeks in September. So yeah, you're looking forward to that. That when it ends, it's funny that no matter what league you were in, if the game ended on a Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, you're headed home that night. Well, so I can remember working the last championship game. Well, I don't care if it ended that night. You're ready to go home. But then you get home for a week. It's like, man, I'm ready. Let's go back. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
So a little bit of an addiction to it there.
Oh my gosh. Again, I'm 55 years old and I'm still chasing a dream.
You could look back at those years of grinding and you feel like it was worth it all.
Absolutely. A regret that I have when I got out of the game, when I was released, and I got released after 95, got released. Basically, when I broke the strike, they're going to send you back to AAA. And that's not your goal. Your goal is to get to the big leagues. So, no, I'm not going back to AAA. Okay, well, you're released. So, I got out of the game. When I got out of the game, I got out. I came home. I cut my shin guards up with a bandsaw. My dad had a bandsaw. I cut them up, cut my shoes up. I was not umpiring anymore. I was done. So, I got out of the game for 10, 12 years and then got back into doing college baseball. And when I started back into college baseball at a very low level, would not do D1, just wanted to do, local stuff, Pitt and Mount Olive, just stuff like that, just something to stay low profile, just to still be connected with the game. But looking back on it, I wish I'd have got right out of the pro game and went right into the college game. But at the time, they were making $125 a game,
And did I want to drive to Chapel Hill or drive to State or Wake Forest for $125? No. Now they're making $850 a game, and it's well worth it, to go do those things. So that's one of the regrets that I have looking back on my career. I wished I'd have got straight out of pro ball and went right into college ball. My college career would have been so much different.
But you did take that break. So when you came back to it, how did that feel to put the guards back on, put the mask back on?
Great. I mean, it's like riding a bicycle. It really is. When you do something for 11 straight years and it's so repetitive night in and night out, it was like riding a bike. I got back in, it's like, dang, I miss it. But the game has changed so much after I got out to today. With the pitch clock, the amount of visits that the managers can have, replay has changed the game. The pitch clock. So the NCAA, they make rule changes that supposedly are better for the student athlete. They got this one right. The pitch clock is right. I mean, they're going to tweak it and adjust it and change the timing of it the game needed to be sped up a little bit, and it has definitely sped the game up. It's turned what used to be a 3.5-hour game into a 2-hour and 45-minute game. It's just been so good for college baseball.
When you broke the strike, what was your thinking at that point? That was going to help you maybe give a better chance of getting?
It's so funny. They called like 3 times. They called like 3 times before I decided to do it, and they just sweeten the pot every time, and then the last time they just sweetened the pot. And yeah, again, we talked about the money situation. You've been in the low minor leagues, not making any money, and then all of a sudden you're getting offered $10,000-$12,000 to sign. It's like, wow, wait, $10,000-$12,000.
Well, and you know that you personally deserve this opportunity.
So again, we talked about it earlier. At that point, if you're in AAA baseball, you can umpire. There's no doubt about it. You can umpire. You can call balls and strikes saves and nights as good as the guy in the big leagues. There's no doubt. It's just a matter of how you handle the situation. I was ready to go to the big leagues. I was good enough to go to the big leagues. It's just I didn't have the opportunity. Back in the day, it was so political too. It was so political. If you're named to go to the National League, you had to be an Italian. You had to have a vowel on your last name. You think I'm joking, but it is so true. We had a National League supervisor that was an Italian, and he would come in the locker room looking. He said, "Any Italians in here?" I mean, that's the way it was. But it was so political back in the day. Today, it's not like that. Today, it's more of a merit system. So how they get there.
Basically, they made an offer you couldn't refuse.
They made an offer you can't refuse. Exactly. Yeah. So that's the whole goal. I mean, that was the whole point of me going up.
Well, Jimmy, man, we appreciate you coming on here.
It's been a blast, JJ. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, happy to have you and hear about your experience. And I think we'll have to have you back. We didn't cover everything we were hoping to talk about today.
Table, man.
Yeah, it's been great. And again, I appreciate you guys. I try to speak to you every time I see you at the local events. And like I said, I think you guys do a heck of a job here. So I really appreciate you guys as well.
Thank you. And we thank our producer, Ross Caraway. And we'll see you next week.